Hey there, welcome back to my channel, The Modern Mess Princess. This is Kimberly. Today we're going to be looking at Joshua 6, verses 1 through 20, and I'm using the Be Brave devotional kit from Magnolia and Magenta. They have a really cute kit, and it's all done in black and white, which you guys know me is like totally not what I usually do because I love color so much. But this kit has using just black and white has challenged me, and it's actually been super fun, and the content is stellar, you guys. I lead a course called Be Bold, and it's over very similar content, helping people learn how to make bold choices and get over fear and conquer fear. So this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart, and I just hate being held up by fear. So we're going to talk about that today. But first, I want to show you, I'm outlining this heart. They show these as traceables, but you could also just cut them out and glue them in your Bible after you've read the devotional content on the other side. And that would be like 100 times easier. But sometimes, this is just a little tip that might work for you too. Sometimes when I have a lot of time and I just really want to hear from God and I just want to spend time with Him, I want to do something tedious like this. So I'm going to draw this heart, and then I'm going to color it in with a white gel pen, and then I'm going to draw the lines again, and I'm going to take time to paint around it, and all sorts of tedious steps that I don't really need to do, but it just creates space and time for me to just spend time with God. And it was one of those days where I just wanted a tedious project that I could just sit and listen to what God had to say. And that was really good because I've heard the story. This is when Israel takes the city of Jericho. And I've heard this story since I was a little girl. But God revealed some things to me about that. And so let's talk about that while I do this page. And you can just watch what I'm doing as I go along. It's pretty apparent what I'm doing, so I don't probably need to explain exactly what I'm doing here. So as I'm just painting and drawing and working here in the margins of my Bible, I thought we'd talk a little bit about this topic of courage and bravery, because that's really what God esteems Joshua for. When you read about who Joshua was, he was a man of courage, and he just trusted God with all of his heart, and he trusted God when things didn't make sense. And that's why I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that's why we're sitting here. Because sometimes God asks us to do things that just sound a little wacky. And if anything's wacky, well, we've got, David and Goliath, which is kind of a strange story and how that worked. But we also have the courage of Joshua, the courage of Joshua. And this isn't the first time he's just flat out trusted God. The Bible does not say that Joshua ever questioned God. It's just when God said, go do this, he was like, okay, if God's leading us there, we're good. And if you don't know the story of Jericho, let me just tell you what God asked them to do. So the Israelite army has now all the Israelites are now in the promised land, and they're in the process of overtaking all these cities to be theirs that God has said they can go conquer. And God gives them instructions in each city, kind of a battle plan of what to do, how to do it, what they can take, what they need to leave behind. And then they're left with a choice. Do they follow God's instructions, or do they do what makes sense to them? There have been 3 times in my life that were big life-changing decisions where I had to either trust God even when what I felt like the thing he was asking me to do, it didn't seem like it was going to make sense or result in the healing or the promise that he had given me. Like, I couldn't understand. It'd be like this story where God tells the Israelites, here's how you're going to take down Jericho. So you're going to go march around their city for 6 days. And at the end of every day, you march around the city 7 times. Go back home to your tents. And then on the 7th day, I want you to march around and yell, and the walls will fall down. Okay, so God bless Joshua. He's the one that gets to tell them all this. And I can only imagine that there had to have been at least a few Israelites that thought Joshua had lost his mind, or he wasn't hearing God right, or he was complaining. And how true is that when we are faced with a hard decision and we make a choice where we know we're like, okay, God, you led me here. I'm going to make this choice to quit a job or to move to a new town or to change churches or something massive like that. And people question whether you heard God right. People question whether you're doing the right thing. And at those intersections where God and our heart and then the world's advice all clash, we have to make a choice. And that's what I realized that this was all about for me today. It was all about being brave. Really isn't as gray as it feels. I'm painting gray up here for that reason. Like sometimes choices feel like, oh, they're so gray. Like there's too many things, or I want to start negotiating with God and saying, but I don't understand, but I don't get it. I'm just honest with you guys. But if I look at Joshua and I look at the brave people of the Bible, they just went, okay, let's do it. And in these three circumstances that I'm thinking about right now, there were times where I heard God so clearly that I really didn't feel like I had a choice, which was such grace because the choices seemed so strange and people did question them. People tried to get me to not go those ways, especially when I had to close my counseling practice. That was a really hard one. It made absolutely no sense to me, but I heard God so clearly, pack up and go home. And so I took a month to close up my clients and refer them into the hands of other good therapists. And I had to close my business because I got sick. It did not make any sense to me at all. And so that was a huge struggle. But the grace comes in that I heard God so clearly that being brave and having the courage to be brave was really what I needed. And He supplied it right there. So when God's talking to me, maybe even small things, like I've been sharing some art that I'm doing on Instagram and it's very personal to me, but I felt like God has said, okay, time to put it out there. I can say, well, God, this is between you and me. And like, I'm not really an artist and I might look foolish and people might think my art looks very immature. And God's like, yep, you're stepping into that gray area. Are you going to be brave or what are we doing here? And so I've been posting the art. Now, I don't know what God's going to do with it. I don't know if He's just helping me be brave or if there's a bigger plan for all this or what. But I, this was just a small instance where I could choose to argue with Him or think that I heard Him wrong, or just do what I'm pretty sure He's asking me to do. So I would just encourage you that if God's asking you to do something, and you've heard from Him, His voice, that He's asked you to do something, whether it's small, like post to something encouraging on Instagram, or whether it's something big, like time to move. I'd encourage you to really consider how gracious He is in His requests from us, and that He will give you exactly what you need, even if it doesn't make sense. And it will make your future better, because in Jeremiah 29:11, He talks about having good plans for us, right? So we can trust that if He gives us the plan, it's good. It's a plan to help us. And we can look back on this and go, well, yeah, of course it worked. The Israelites took over Jericho and everything worked out. But at the time, it had to have been a really strange battle plan. So here I'm just taking some notes down. Like as I was painting and praying and thinking, I just had God reveal like 4 things to me that I want to listen when it comes to being brave and making the choice to do something that doesn't necessarily make sense. This is just a little sticker from the Magnolia and Me Be Brave kit. This is super cute kit, you guys. I think their website's called magnoliamagenta.com. So you should check that out. They're Meg and Me on Instagram. Super, super sweet gal. And they didn't sponsor me on this. I bought this kit and I just like passing on companies to you guys that I find value in. So the first thing I'm writing down here is listen for the battle plan. So when it comes to being brave, we need to pray, get quiet, and ask God to reveal the plan to us for going forward. And then 2 is it may not make sense, but trust anyway. So the plans that we listened for the battle plan, and Joshua went, okay. My tendency to go is, what? But trust it anyway. Number 3, execute the plan one day at a time. God broke this plan down into 7 days, and all they had to do was deal with each day. They didn't have to deal with the outcome of Jericho. All they had to do was what God asked them to do. He took down Jericho. That is huge when we're facing something scary, you guys. And it applies to how God works with us. And then 4 is trust God for the victory. They didn't have to do anything to overtake Jericho except for obey God and do this kind of wacky little marching thing. But it wasn't about the marching. It was about the obedience. It was about trusting God and having courage in a face of extraordinary circumstances. So I'm creating a little tip in here because I wanted to write down some more things. There's a quote on this page of the Be Fearless part of this devotional that says, being fearless doesn't mean that I don't have fear, but that fear has been overcome. And that's so cool because the Bible, says so many places, do not fear, do not be afraid, do not worry. And it's not that those aren't going to happen or we're sinning if all of a sudden worry creeps in. It's like, no, we just need to take it on and say, okay, but my faith is in God, and on that I will stand. And so it's not a sin to have worry creep in or to have fear creep in. We're humans. It's just going to happen. It's what we do with that worry. Do we stay in the worry? Do we trust God? What do we do? So I just wrote here, dear Lord, I want to be like Joshua. I want to follow your plans with trust and faith and obedience, even when I don't know how it's going to work out. So I hope that inspires you. I hope that encourages you. Again, that this page was, I made it simple, but time consuming for the purpose of just spending time in God's Word. And again, I'd encourage you to read the story and see what God highlights for you, because he might highlight something else. And I'd love you to tag me in your work on Instagram anytime. It doesn't have to be things that were inspired by me, but I just love seeing what people do. So feel free to tag Modern Mess Princess in anything you do. I just enjoy seeing creativity and how God's inspiring you. So I'm just decorating this little tip-in with some more layers and some stickers that come in the kit. This was a tab I had punched out of some scrap paper earlier. It's little black and white cheetah print. So I was like, heck yes, let's add some cheetah print. I love animal print. So, and I love all these textures that don't necessarily make sense because I started with that geometric design, and then we've got the texture of kind of this rough wood and then the cheetah print. Again, mixing textures may sound a little scary, but look how fun it is. Might be too busy for you, but oh my goodness, so fun for me. Well, thanks for hanging out today. Feel free to leave comments. I'd love for you to stick around, so go ahead and click subscribe if this was inspiring or anything positive in your life, and I will talk to you guys again soon. Bye.